Well, in the book, I really go through what I call my second act strategy, but it really is about taking your ideas. Because when you are thinking that you're really stuck, you're unhappy where you are, you start grasping at all these different ideas that you might want to do. And they all seem like they're greener on the other side. But I want you to research them first, like really research what each role or what each business will look like and what the day-to-day will look like. Because, Dave, I've had clients come to me with 5, 10 different ideas. And as we start looking into what that would be, they're like, oh, no, never mind. I didn't realize it involved X, Y, and Z. And so I think learning before you leap is extremely important. So doing that research, what is it like to be a podcaster? What is it like to open a business? What is it like to open an online shop, whatever it is? And as you research, you become more confident. So then at the end, after you've done your research and you're like, yep, this is what I want to do, then you can move forward in executing all those other steps. And I really walk you through that in the book so that you can say, okay, I am confident. This is what I need to do. And now if naysayers from my, friends or family come in and say, you're crazy, why are you leaving this job? I will feel confident saying, you know what, thank you so much, but I know this is the right path for me. So I really talk about a lot of that mindset work, strategic work, action, taking goals, making that roadmap, all of that in the book to make sure you're 100% sure you're going down the right path.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. It's the Author Podcast. We get to talk to great authors from around the world. This author I love. I found this author because of her amazing podcast. That's another podcast that we're going to do together, but I found her and I love what she does on her show. I love how she shows up for her audience. She also has a book, all well branded, everybody. Very well branded. If you want to know branding, just go to this website. You're going to love it. But Start Your Second Act is the book, and Shannon's here with me. Shannon, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you on the podcast.
I'm so happy to be here with you, Dave. Thank you for having me.
I love your podcast. Like, we talk about that just for a second. I know we're going to do an episode about that together, but I love your show. I love what you do on your podcast. And I listen to your podcast and you're just like the kindest person. Like, I come back again and again because of how you do your show. So tell everybody about your podcast.
Yeah, my podcast is Second Act Success Podcast. So it's all about people who have started over and changed from one career to the other, opening a business to inspire listeners to start a second act and know that maybe you were a teacher, but now you can go and open a jewelry Etsy shop if you want, whatever you want to do for your second act. So yeah, it's so much fun to have those conversations.
Excellent. And you have now a book as well that goes along with all the things you're doing. The title of your book, let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's called Start Your Second Act, How to Change Careers, Launch a Business, and Create Your Best Life. So it really is just that. It's all about starting over in whatever area you feel called to recreate yourself, reinvent, pivot. And that's what I do. I coach women on how to leave their jobs and start a business. And so it's really a lot of my coaching and my teachings, as well as my second act career transition story that I went through, leaving television and opening my first business and then becoming a coach. And I share also stories from clients and people who've been on my podcast. So I want the book to really just be that tool that someone can grab and get that inspiration and that advice so that they can start working towards a more fulfilled life in their second act.
Okay. And so we have authors listening to the show, Shannon. Now, I love doing, I guess, interviews with other authors or podcasters because I know that you can run with this, no problem. We have authors listening to the show. They are new to writing and they're just on the baby steps of starting the journey of becoming an author. What would have been helpful for you to hear on a podcast in a conversation around writing that really would have helped you early days of writing, Start Your Second Act? What kind of information would have been helpful for you?
I think knowing that marketing the book is harder than writing the book, in a sense, and so I think I would have liked to have learned that as I was writing the book to really think about ways to market it. And I did start doing that maybe halfway through. I would pull out little nuggets or little quotes or things that I thought would be attractive in my marketing and advertising of the book. But I think that's important to think about when you're writing fiction or nonfiction, to just think about how you want to market it to your ideal reader. And not that you want to change your writing for that, but that you can pull little things out that you think might help on that back end when you're trying to really do the promotion of the book. And also know that there's so much you can pull from. Like for me, as a nonfiction author, I pulled from the blogs that I have written and the podcasts that I've done. So there was a lot to pull from that I could use in the book. So I wasn't really recreating that story again. I was able to pull it and then kind of rewrite it a little bit, if that makes sense.
Okay, that was kind of my next question. Like, how much did your podcast and your blog influence the book then? Like, if you had a percentage, could you kind of give me a ballpark?
I would say I probably took maybe a third of that information. And it was really me filling out, kind of writing my outline of what I wanted the book to look like and coming up with those chapters and then saying, oh, you know what? I wrote a blog about branding your professional, your professional brand and how that works when you're going from one career to the next. Let me pull that blog and see what I can use. So I really was able to cut and paste a lot of things that all the content I've already done and stick it into that outline and then go through and see how it fits. But it really was like a puzzle in that sense because I already had this great material. So I was able to repurpose it, which was, I think, smart and time saving at the same time. It helped me a lot and gave me that extra boost of confidence when I felt like I was hitting that writer's block, that like, oh no, let me take this and rework it and see how it fits in.
Yeah, because you've already gone down these paths already on your show and what you've been writing. So that becomes part of your journey and part of your everything. I would think that the book influenced the podcast influenced the book, the blog's in there as well. Like you have all these different things you're working on, and it's just a matter of capturing that and kind of putting into a book form for somebody who has content in other places like you have. Is there any little tricks that you had to capture that content? Like once you speak a podcast and put it out there, do you have a way of pulling that information back and then kind of blending it into what you're writing? Any tips on that part?
Yeah, for me, I really looked through the stories of, women and men who have come on my podcast and talked about moving from X over to Y. Yeah. And I pulled a lot of those out and asked a couple of those guests if I could use them in the book. So there are a few people that I actually share their story, as well as my clients, my coaching clients. I did ask, hey, can I share your story in there to just let the reader see in a more full form where this person started and where they ended up after they did the work to start over. And I also have a section in the book where I just listed podcast episodes that I recommended that were really interesting stories as like another resource that you could go back and listen. But plus I have the transcripts of all of the podcast interviews. So I was able to just grab some things and really look at any similarities between guests and kind of common themes and pull those in as well. So it really just helped spark like extra ideas and filled out those chapters a little bit more. So I'd say definitely spend time looking at what you've already created or even what you've done in your own experience, in your own story.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. So would you say start your second act, is that more of a handbook for people, or is it more kind of higher level as like how you approach it mentally, this big change in our life? Like what's kind of the big idea for the book then?
It's kind of both. Okay. I want it to be a handbook where you can pick it up in each chapter. Like it starts off with my career transition story and what a second act is. And then it goes into, okay, well, if you are thinking about reinventing yourself, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like you're in this place where your career just no longer aligns because you chose that career at 20 and here you are at 40 and it just doesn't fit, that here are ways that you can get past that and you can start thinking. So there really are step-by-step tactical strategies that I use, that I teach in my programs, that I share in the book, that I put all out there just so if you aren't working with me, you can still grab this and get those lessons, those step-by-step ways to create your roadmap to start your second act, whatever that is. And I also dive into how to start a business, how to start a podcast or write a book, or some people want to volunteer full time if they can afford it. Some people want to change careers and not open a business. So I kind of go through all the different aspects of what a second act can be and also listing all of those examples. So I want it to be tactical and also inspirational. So you can say, okay, I'm not alone in feeling stuck, and here's how I can get out of that.
does the term second act imply an age that you're trying to reach out to, or is this kind of for all ages that are thinking about something different?
For me, it's really a play on the television world that I come from in second act. Yeah. But yeah, I think, my main clientele is probably 30 and up that I work with. But I have heard since releasing this book that people have bought it because it released in May. So a lot of people have said that they bought it for people graduating, whether it's high school or college. Right. So yeah, so just the idea of starting a new chapter in your life, whatever that might be and whatever age. And then also retirees, like at my launch party, funny story, my aunt told a bunch of her friends who are retired, and this big group of ladies that I didn't know came and they all bought the book, and we're all talking about how they don't want to sit around and watch TV all day. They want to figure out what else they can do, and it can be opening an Etsy shop or starting a podcast. And it was so cool to see them light up with ideas. So as far as age goes, I think it can really be anyone. Even if you're just starting your career and you realize, a few months into it, this is not what I wanted. This is not what I thought my degree would get me. Yeah. You can still pick up this book and figure out, okay, let me see how I can take this and turn it into something else.
I had an author guest on the show recently, and she retired from being a lawyer, and she sat on the couch for like almost a year, just like had no clue what to do. She was completely stuck, just watching Netflix and binging TV. And she's like, I went from being in high demand, $500 an hour was my rate. People needed me. I was in court. I was with clients. I was doing all this to nothing. And she's like, I'm going to either never get off this couch and never do something new, or I'm going to have to make a change. So this would be a perfect book for somebody who's maybe they've been given retirement, not by choice. They're like, you're done. Have a nice day. Mm-hmm. Or they made that decision to make that change. And this would be a great book for somebody like that.
Yeah, I think it came out at a really good time where there are so many layoffs happening and people being forced into that, quote unquote retirement, that they're not ready to sit on that couch, and they know that they can do more. And it's a way of almost thinking back to when we were younger and those dreams that we had. And I had a woman on my show who said she loved to dance, and that was her thing. And when she turned 60, she said, you know what? I want to start taking dance classes, and I want to start teaching dance to people. And why not? It's at that time where you're in that transition period. Why not think about those things that you enjoyed when you were younger and try to do them now? I talk a lot in the book and in life about living your life to the fullest and not having regrets at the end of the day. And I think if anyone gets anything out of the book and my writing, it's that of just saying, okay, we get this one life. Let's make it the most fulfilling that we can while we have the time.
Yeah. I think there's a loss of identity too, when you're one thing for so long and then a change happens and you're like, how do I reinvent myself? How do I even approach my second act when all I know is what I did before, right? But there's this beautiful opportunity ahead of you to maybe go a different direction and not just do what's comfortable, but try something that you've always wanted to do, but you've never had the ability to do in your calendar, or you never felt comfortable starting something new. Then this might be the perfect opportunity for you. So that's why I love the book and the podcast as a kind of a back and forth collaboration between the two, because we can listen to you. We can also then read the book as well.
I agree. Yeah. Thank you so much. And it is, and it's a lot about the identity, is saying, you know what, I am still that same person, and I'm taking all of that experience with me into this next thing that I'm doing. And that can be done in any industry, any field. Even me writing the book, I wrote for television. I've written blogs for my business, but I've never written a book. So it was a challenge, but me saying, okay, I'm going to take those past skills and use that to figure out how to write this book and become an author. We're always challenging ourselves to try something new, or should be, right? It's part of life and learning and figuring it out. You and I didn't know how to be podcasters before this, but we learned and figured it out and found something that brings us joy. So I think that's important too, is to say, okay, our career is not our identity. We're still the same person. Let's just use all that experience to our benefit as we move forward.
Okay, I'm going to get a nasty nudge email or message from my listener if I don't ask this question because you've mentioned it a couple times. My listeners right now are going, she keeps saying she wrote for TV. Dave, if you don't ask this question, can you tell us what was part of your job? What would you do in television back in the day? Like, what was it? What did you do?
Yeah, I was a television producer. So I basically took the idea for a show and then brought it to the screen. But in that, I had to write script for a lot of the shows or write the marketing copy or write, what the talent would say on set. And I mostly worked for entertainment news shows, MTV, reality shows. So no scripted TV, but I wrote, the words that would come out of the host's mouth or the talent's mouth and interviewed a bazillion celebrities over my time, so writing questions for them. So, so that's kind of what I wrote for.
What's one person that you met in your job that you had one anticipation of what they might be like, but they were completely different in a good way? You're just like, oh my gosh, you're like the nicest person I've ever met. Anybody come to mind?
It's funny, but the person that comes to mind that I say, and your younger listeners might not know, but Henry Winkler.
Oh, come on.
The Fonz.
Oh.
Like, he came onto this one entertainment news show I was doing, and everyone loved him. I mean, he went and shook the hand of every single crew member. And so it's like I grew up watching, because my parents grew up watching Happy Days. And so just to meet him, it was like, whoa. And the fact that he was even nicer than I thought. So there's plenty of celebrities that were not like that, but he was one that just sticks out to me as being like the nicest human.
When you meet somebody like that and you have a perception of them as a star, they're on my TV, I know they're famous, and they come up and show up like that, as they leave the room and you're thinking about your own self, like, do you go, man, I could be nicer to people. When I see somebody that nice who doesn't have to be that nice, they could just be a superstar. But they purposely do that and connect with people. Do you kind of take that as a lesson for yourself at all and maybe how you can show up?
Oh, yeah. And I think just in my experience in the entertainment industry, it's all about relationships. And, even if you're not nice to a celebrity or even to an agent or a talent booker or someone who comes with them to a show, they're not going to want to come back again. So my whole perception since I began my career in TV is to be as nice and genuinely form those relationships because they're going to help you down the road. So absolutely. I feel like when you are outside of the walls of your home, you should be the best version of yourself and just friendly to everyone because not that you want to do it so that it comes back to you, but you know what I mean? You just want to do it because you never know where your paths may cross. And, when you are nice to someone, it affects the rest of their day. Just the same as if you are not nice to someone, it can affect their day. And I'm someone who, if someone's not nice to me at the checkout counter or anything, it sticks with me for a while. I take that personally. So when someone is so overtly nice and you're not expecting that, you're just like, wow, like it pays to be a good person.
There you go. Can you talk a little bit about your second act? Like what was your transition and your own personal story that kind of is the underlying foundation for your podcast, your book, your blogs, everything that you're doing. Can you tell us a little bit about your own personal story?
Yeah, so I was in TV for 16 years in Los Angeles and New York City, and then I became a mom. And so I had my first son in Los Angeles, and then 3 years later, we were on the East Coast in New York, and I was pregnant with my second son. And it was then that it was throughout those 3 years that I was thinking, okay, I don't know how much longer I can do this because I was traveling, working long hours, missing first birthdays. Like it was a lot. And my husband's in the television industry as well. So it was a juggle. It was really a struggle for us to figure things out. And so when I was pregnant with my second son, I was like, you know what? I think I've accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish. Let me check that box and figure out what's next. And then my show was canceled when I was on maternity leave. And that was just a sign from the universe to figure it out. And that's when I kind of went on my path to figure out what my second act would look like. Tried a couple of different things that didn't feel right. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to produce my own life. I'm going to start a business. And I bought into a franchise as my first business, a children's STEM education franchise. So I was able to build that alongside my 3-year-old and newborn. and then grew that within the first couple years to be the in the top 3 of the company. And I said, wow, my skills did transfer. This is actually really exciting. Let me keep growing this. And then a year or so later, I opened my coaching business because I saw that I was able to do it, and I wanted to help other women like me who felt stuck maybe with young kids and just didn't feel like their career fit anymore. And so then I ran both businesses for quite some time, and I sold the franchise just last year.
Wow. Wow. Okay, I like that you did a proof of concept, right? As you're thinking, how am I going to navigate this new part of my life, all my new responsibilities, and the time crunch is different. When you don't have children, you're a little more flexible to go and do the extra hours and extra trips and all that other stuff. Now you have an anchor that holds you back, not hold you back, but holds you to your home and solidifies where you are, right? You're in a different place. And I love that you did a proof of concept. You didn't just jump at something and hope for the best, but you're like, I'm going to try this and I'm going to see what I can build. And you prove to yourself you could do it. That's a great starting point, I think, for a lot of people to kind of lean into.
Yeah, thank you. And I did try, like, in the interim in that year or so, I took a 9-to-5 job that just didn't fit.
Yeah.
I went to work for my master's. I figured, oh, I'll become a teacher, like grasping at those straws, because that's what we have to do when we're figuring out
Right.
what feels right. And I think in starting a second act, we can be a little choosy too, because we know what we're good at. We know what we like doing, what we don't like doing. And so I really did a lot of self-reflection over that time, and then finally said, you know what, let's go big and let's buy into a franchise. Like you said, it's already proven that it can work. I just have to figure out how to build mine and market it to my community. And it wasn't easy, but it worked. And it just proved to me that I could leave something, take those skills and experience, and use those talents in this new role. So I think if I can do it, anyone can do that.
So how does your book then help somebody in a similar situation where you were in, where you're making this big change? How is this book going to kind of come along and help us in this part of our journey?
Well, in the book, I really go through what I call my second act strategy, but it really is about taking your ideas, because when you are thinking that you're really stuck, you're unhappy where you are, you start grasping at all these different ideas that you might want to do. And they all seem like they're greener on the other side. But I want you to research them first, like really research what each role or what each business will look like and what the day-to-day will look like. Because, Dave, I've had clients come to me with 5, 10 different ideas. And as we start looking into what that would be, they're like, oh, no, never mind. I didn't realize it involved X, Y, and Z. And so I think learning before you leap is extremely important. So doing that research, what is it like to be a podcaster? What is it like to open a business? What is it like to open an online shop, whatever it is? And as you research, you become more confident. So then at the end, after you've done your research and you're like, yep, this is what I want to do, then you can move forward and executing all those other steps. And I really walk you through that in the book so that you can say, okay, I am confident. This is what I need to do. And now if naysayers from my, friends or family come in and say, you're crazy, why are you leaving this job? I will feel confident saying, you know what, thank you so much, but I know this is the right path for me. So I really talk about a lot of that mindset work, strategic work, action, taking goals, making that roadmap, all of that in the book to make sure you're 100% sure you're going down the right path.
How do you help people who are dealing with this feeling of, I don't think I can do this? Like, I have a passion to make a change in my life, but the idea of not having a paid job where somebody pays me to sit at my desk and do the task, the idea of me doing this on my own and being responsible for everything, including my salary, Shannon, I don't think I can do this. Like, I've never done this before. How do you work with somebody like that?
It's starting small,
Okay.
and it's looking at your individual circumstances. So finances are a really big thing. And I know there's some gurus out there that say, oh, just pick a date, put it on the calendar. That's when you quit. And no, I don't, because I kind of left. If you remember my story, my show was canceled and I had to figure it out. And it added a lot of stress of, oh no, let me get that 9-to-5 job because I need to bring money in. And I wasn't planning for that, change, where I want my clients to really prepare. So we look at your finances and maybe you say, you know what, I've got to work for another 6 months or another year to save money, but I can build the business on the side, or I can plan for whatever it is you want to do on the side while I'm working, and we can get a plan in place. Or, you can open your business on the side and continue to work full time. A lot of people, like you said, want that stability, but they also want to accomplish that dream of theirs. So there's a way of doing both. And another excuse I hear a lot is, well, I don't want to cause chaos in my family.
Right.
I'm in charge of the kids and the schedule. And so there's ways of doing it where it doesn't cause that chaos. Because I know as a parent, you don't want to be responsible for everything falling apart. And we can do it in little small steps. And it might be planning out the next year and just making a couple different action steps within each month that you can tackle and feel like you're working towards something. But everything is doable. It's just a matter of figuring out what's doable for you and how you can work it into your life in a really organic, methodical way.
So you don't have to wait for your television show to be canceled to start the journey of going after your second act. You can do it while you're still working and you have this dream. So any tips for somebody who is working currently but knows that a change is coming in the future? Like how do we kind of navigate working a job but dreaming about the next thing?
Well, yeah, and I definitely would have done my situation a little bit differently if I had had someone like me to help. But I'd say for a lot of people, because there are so many mass layoffs happening in the United States, Canada, everywhere right now, that it's important to kind of say, oh, you know what? I am fearing that I'm going to be on the other end of those layoffs, or I'm fearing that something's going to happen at my company. You can start thinking right now. And it's a matter of even saying, okay, that 30 minutes in the morning when I sit down at my desk with my coffee and I doom scroll, or I'm on, news, whatever it is, like that is a time where you can update your resume or update your LinkedIn or start researching business ideas. Or, during your lunch break, instead of going with coworkers or, again, doom scrolling online or checking your email, you can start looking at logos, figuring out your business name, setting up a website. It's just being disciplined to say, okay, I want to just make 2 to 3 hours a week even that I'm going to dedicate to making the second act plan and putting it in place. So it's starting it really small, but I think whatever you can do to start doing that ahead of time while you have the safety of that paycheck, it's really important, I think, for anyone now. And I even tell my kids who are 10 and 13, okay, when you think about what it is that you want to be when you're older, that's great, but you can change it anytime. And you can also have a business on the side, because that business is going to be something that you can control.
Right.
Whereas a job, you can never truly control. Right. So just getting that entrepreneur kind of mindset, I think, at an early age is really smart, because I think that's what's going to be more common as, the generations progress, because more and more people will have to have that control over their destiny that we just don't have as much in the workforce nowadays.
So I want to start my own second act, but I have no clue what I want to do. I need somebody to help me kind of talk through what I'm good at, find out where my interests are. I have no idea what's available to me out there. I've never even thought of this before. And now that I'm hearing this conversation, I'm like, I need to talk to Shannon. That person, Shannon, you did say you talk to people and you do coaching and stuff for people. Can you give us an idea? What's it like to work with you? Like, how do you bring somebody into your world? I'm really curious as a listener, and I've never worked with somebody like this before, and I don't know what it's going to involve. Can you kind of break that down for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And for someone who, like you were just describing, who has no idea but just knows that they want to try something else, I'm certified in UMAP, which is a career business assessment that pulls your strengths, your values, your personality, and your skills, and it gives you this template, this roadmap. It's called the UMAP, that has everything that you're good at, that you enjoy doing, and it also lists out things that maybe you're good at that you don't enjoy doing. So that when you're thinking about a business or a new career role or any kind of venture, you can look at this map and it keeps you kind of heading in the right direction for when that shiny object syndrome comes, or when you're just grasping at those straws. You can say, you know what, let me look, that has a lot of numbers and and math in there. I might be good at it. I don't want to do it anymore. So it just helps. So that's a great assessment for those people who come to me and are like what you had said, just need that little bit of direction. UMAP is amazing. So I use that with any client that wants to get clear on what they're good at. And then for others who come and say, I have this business idea, I'm ready to get it started, we work one-on-one to do that, to really just plan that business, get it up and launched, and then even help scale that business in the early stages. And then I also have a coaching program called the Second Act Accelerator. That's a 3-month program with a course, coaching. So that's for someone who's like, I just needed to get it off the ground. And in 3 months, we have it up and running. So it's just, there's different options. So usually I have a call with people and then figure out the best option for them. Okay. But it's really just helping you get to the other side of that limbo that you might be feeling and know that you have an accountability partner, because it's so easy to just say, this is too hard. I'm going to stay stuck. I'll wait for that perfect time. And then that time never comes.
Is all of our interactions with you directly, or do you have a community that we get to meet as well? Like, is that part of it?
In our program, in the Second Act Accelerator, it's with me, and then we have group coaching calls as well, and a community. Okay. Yeah, so that one is nice to be able to network. And on our calls, like I just had a call last week with 2 women starting VA businesses, virtual assistant businesses, and they were able to really help each other, compare pricing, comparing different ways that they're reaching out and offering their services. So I love to see that, because I can help them, but now they're both in it and helping each other, which is really cool.
What does that do for you as the creator of this program and as the coach, to see people working together that would probably have never met otherwise?
I'm such a connector just in my life in general. So I eat it up. I absolutely love it. And it just makes me happy, because I do feel like women more so than men, and a lot of times do take on the brunt of the household and the family, just the way society is. And so we always put ourselves last. And I like the fact that I'm helping women who feel like they maybe aren't worthy of making a change or bettering themselves. But I'm saying, yes, you are worthy. And let's give yourself grace and let's work towards this together so that you feel like a better mom and wife and partner, and you can move forward in your life feeling fulfilled. So it just gives me so much joy, because I see how this has changed my life, making that career transition, and my relationships with my kids and everything. I just feel so blessed and lucky, and it just fills me up to help others.
We kind of have an adjacent brand here with my show, Living the Next Chapter, and you talking about your second act. It kind of goes together really nice. So I'm going to turn the podcast over to you, Shannon, in true podcast style. I'm going to go be a listener now. But I'd love for you to kind of share some takeaways that we can apply to our life based on the book, based on the podcast, your blog, all of that. But something that we can walk away with as listeners. I feel people are leaning into this conversation today, Shannon, going, this is exactly what I needed to hear. And I need to hear a little more Shannon, a little less Dave in the moment. So Shannon, I'm going to turn it over to you. Kind of take us through some things that we can consider as we look towards our second act, things we maybe haven't talked about yet, or we can go a little deeper on. But this is your podcast now. I'm going to go sit with everybody else.
Well, Dave, I think it's about giving yourself that grace to live the next chapter, right? You're giving yourself that grace to say, I am worthy, and not everyone hates their job. I don't have to be that person who does. I can figure out what to do in my life to turn things around so that I do show up better in the world and that I have no regrets at the end of the day. So let's start exploring what would make you feel happier. What do you enjoy doing? And it can be something like starting a podcast or writing a book or creating a blog or doing something that just brings you joy and maybe doesn't bring the money in right away, but it's something that makes you feel creative and like you're really using those talents that you loved when you were younger. And I think just being able to say, wow, this is what I'm working on is nice, because we're so busy taking care of everyone else that when I was starting to write the book, I said, okay, guys, I'm going to go every Monday. I was in a class that helped me, an accelerator program to help me write my first draft. And I told my family, okay, Mondays for 90 minutes, I'm going to go close my door and I'm going to write. that became my time. And I don't take a lot of me time. I'm so busy with the kids that was my time. And they understood and they thought it was exciting that I was writing. And so I said, I'm taking this time for me. And it became something that I enjoyed. So now writing is a hobby of mine. And I truly love being alone with my thoughts and writing. And so I think if you can find something that you enjoy and that you can take that time to yourself, even if it's 1 hour a week, that you can work on that brings you closer to who you are deep down. And it gives you that creativity and that imagination to think about what it is you'd like to do outside of your 9 to 5. That's where the ideas start coming. And you can start saying, oh, yeah. And it doesn't cost a lot of money. And it doesn't take a lot of time, but it's something for me and I'm worthy of having that and I deserve it. And that's where you can start thinking, oh, well, maybe I can take this book and now I can start speaking on some stages. I can start making some money in front of other audiences. I can make a course to go along with this. I can, it starts to roll and you start going, oh, maybe I can make some money and make that roadmap to leave my 9 to 5 if that's what I choose to do and build this as a business. And so whatever it is for your second act can be something small that just starts on the side. Teaching dance classes, like I mentioned earlier, or saying, you know what, I'm a teacher, I can start tutoring more, or I can start taking all of my lesson plans and making those downloadables and printables that I can sell online on Teachers Pay Teachers or on Etsy. Little things that you are just taking what you already know or that you enjoy doing and monetizing it. So I think a second act can be really anything that is important to you that just brings a little bit of joy into your life and allows you to be that fuller person. And it's just like living the next chapter, right? It's like, what do I want this rest of my life to look like? I chose this career when I was a teenager. Life is a little different now. What would I choose at this age? And giving yourself that permission to make that decision and challenge yourself. I think it's fun to think about what else is next. And I'm like, ooh, what else can I do now? I'm going to write fiction next. And, thinking about that is exciting. And it's something that's just mine.
There you go.
Whether anybody reads it or not, it's just like another project I can work on that's mine.
I like that. And you're a different person now than when you took that first job that you're talking about. That neither you were asked to leave or you are going to leave. You're a totally different person now than you were then. So to jump to the exact same thing somewhere else at a different address, the same role, the same job, it might not be the one thing that lights you up. Even though you have that great amount of experience, this might be the perfect time for your second act. So lean into that. That's a great opportunity ahead of you. I think you're giving us a lot of hope, Shannon, in all of this. I think when something happens and you are asked to leave or your TV show is canceled, you lose hope. In the moment, you're like, oh my gosh, now what am I going to do? The thing I love and the thing I'm really good at, I can't do anymore. And now I feel like I'm lost a little bit. So between your book, your podcast, your coaching, your community, there's a way for us to find our next second act. I like this.
I sure hope so. Yeah. And it's knowing that you're allowed to grieve that, but then you can also celebrate it and say, wow, I accomplished all of that. Let's check the box and let's see what is next. And that can, once you get past that in between stage of, wow, this happened to me. Now, what am I going to do with it? This is a new opportunity. And that's exciting. I think when you look at it with that mindset of it being exciting and let's embrace it, I think it makes the future a lot less scary.
Okay. Before we go to the last question, as we wrap up, Shannon, take us to your website. Everything's there. I'm looking at it on the screen right now while we're talking. It's beautiful. And I love the cover of the book, by the way. I see it behind you there. Very colorful. I love that. It's gorgeous. Take us to the website, what we can find as a first-time visitor to your site. Where do we go first? And connecting with you. And I have one more question to wrap up. Talk about the website.
Yeah. The easiest place is startyoursecond.com. That takes you right to the book. And then you'll have, all the information about the book right there. And then you can also just go up to the header and you can click around for my coaching, free resources, the podcasts, and all of that.
Excellent. Success leaves clues. So can you share with us a story of somebody who did come to you and you were able to help them kind of find their second act? And just a quick little story, because I love stories, and I think all of us love to hear a good story. Let's wrap up on a high note, everybody. But is there something you can share with us, somebody that you worked with? That'd be great to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a woman named Maria who came to me, and she was 60 at the time and just newly divorced. And she felt like she spent her entire career helping her husband grow his medical practice. And she was kind of left alone and not having anything of her own. And we really dove into what she likes. And she was is a baker. And she has a lot of health concerns. She had survived cancer. She had to eat a certain way, sugar-free, gluten-free, all of the things. And she learned to bake and cook in that way. And so she said, maybe I can open a baking business. And she started baking. And then eventually she started selling her cakes to local restaurants. And she still does. And it's incredible because this is something that's truly her own. And she found that, and she took something that she knew, something that she was doing for herself because of her own health needs. And now she can bake for other restaurants, and then they can offer gluten-free, vegan, sugar-free, all of the things that are harder to source and find. And it's homemade and delicious. And yeah, I'm really, really proud of her.
There you go. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So if you know something, somebody else wants to know it. If you love something, someone else wants to fall in love with it too. So lean into the things that make you who you are. Leverage your background, your experience, and that opportunity in front of you. Even though it might seem daunting in the moment that you're going to make a big change in your life, your second act is going to be a thing that can make you find your passion and make your life so much happier. So with Shannon's help, everybody grab the book. I know you're listening to this going, I know like 2, 3, 4 other people who are going to love this book. Then you're going to tell them about this book for sure. You're going to tell them about her podcast as well. And you're going to share the links in the notes because I know you're good people as you listen to this. But let's go out and start our second act, Shannon. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast.
Thank you so much, Dave. This is so much fun.
Excellent. Again, thank you so much for being here, and thank you to our guest for being part of Living the Next Chapter. Make sure you go like, follow, share this episode to support your fellow authors. And a reminder to always leave a review every time you buy a book from your favorite author. It means so much to them. It's your words back to the author on why this book means something to you. That's one responsibility that we have as readers, to support our authors by leaving great reviews. I know you've probably forgotten more than you've remembered to leave reviews. So my little ask of you here as we're exiting out of the episode, to go grab that stack of books behind you, put them on your desk, and go to the websites where you purchase these books and leave a review now. I know you bought the book years ago. Go leave a review today. Let the author know how much you love their book. Give really detailed information about why you love this book so much. Let's celebrate our authors by leaving a great review. And thank you for listening to Living the Next Chapter. Thank you for being here. See you next time.